Tato Jaya Mudira.
For reciting this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer special obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Narayan, unto the Narayana Rishi, the Supreme Most High, unto Mother Sarasvati, the Goddess of Learning, and unto Sri Vyasa, the offering. Srinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Srinvatam Swakata Krishna.
Punya Shravana Kirtanam.
Punya Shravana Kirtanam.
Vidyantasto Bhadrani.
Vidyantasto Abhadrani.
Vidhunoti Suritsatam.
Vidhunoti Suritsatam.
Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is a Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu.
Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke.
Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki.
Bhakti Bhavati Nishtiki.
By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the true devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So we have a reading today from Srimad Bhagavatam.
On the 11th day of September.
And the 11th day, the date was wrong too?
Yeah, 9/11.
It's 9/11.
Oh. I think it says 9/11.
No one wants to remember 9/11. That's
Well,
why they put like
the
that.
thing is that it's the day before my wedding anniversary.
Oh.
Great. Congratulations.
That's
Yeah,
not,
that was a day of witness.
but it wasn't the same. It was a different decade, but still.
It's also the day before I got my first job.
Oh, really? In that building?
No, different one.
I had all kinds of relatives in and around that building, or were supposed to be in that building that day.
Wow. And they weren't somehow?
Yeah, my brother, one of my brothers was, he was at the police force, he was there when it was happening. My cousins were the firemen in the building. It was, my brothers have never been the same.
Huh?
My brothers, anyways, I shouldn't talk about it now.
Okay. So, we have a reading.
Hare Krishna. Prabhupada predicted it though. I just heard a devotee say that Patita Pavan, he said that some devotee was telling Prabhupada that they're building the tallest two buildings in the world. Prabhupada said, what is the use? Soon they will all come down.
Oh,
And then they built another tall one, right?
I don't know what they did. I haven't been paying attention.
So, we gotta get to this.
Yes.
So we have a reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 16, entitled How Parikshit Received the Age of Kali. And we're doing texts 33 and 34 is the correct numbers?
no, number 32 and 33.
32 and 33. Okay, so I noticed that the purport focused on the second one. So we're doing the second one. There's two verses here, so I wrote the second one on the board. I'll just read the first one, and if I can find the point, I can find where the second one starts in the word readings. When we get to that, we'll just do the word readings for the second one too. Okay. Pramadayo bahutitam yad apangamosha kamastapa samacharan bhagavat papanaha sashre swavasam aravindavanam vihaya yapadam saubhagam alambajate nurakta. That was 30, whichever one it was. This is the one we're doing today. Tasyaham Abja Kulishan Kusha Ketu Ketai Tasyaham Abja Kulishan Kusha Ketu Ketai
Tasyaham abja kulishan kusa ketu ketai. Srimad Padar Bhagavataha Samalam Kritangi
Srimad Padar Bhagavata Samalan Kritangi
Srimad Padar Bhagavata Samalam Kritangi Trin Atyarocha Upalabhya Tato Vibhutim
Trin Atyarocha Upalabhya Tato Vibhutim
Tin Atarocha Upalabhya Tato Vibhutim.
It's not team, I've been saying team, it's Tim because it's a short line. I'm saying it wrong.
Lokan Sa Mam
Vyasrijat Utsmayatim That was really team. Tad Ante Lokan Samam Vyasrijat Utsamatim Tadante
Lokan samam vyarjat utmayatim tadante.
Tasyaham abja kulishan kushake tuketai.
Tasyaham abja kulishan kushake tuketai.
Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalan Kritani.
Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalan Kritani.
This way the Brahma Samhita. How's the Brahma Samhita? Trin Atyarocha Ukalabhya Tato Vibhutim.
Trin Atyarocha Ukalabhya Tato Vibhutim.
Lokan Samam Vyasrijat Utsamaitim.
Lokan samam vyasarjat utsamayatim tadante.
Tasyaham abja kulishan kushake tuketai.
Tasyaham abja kulishan kushake tuketai.
Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalan Kritangi.
Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalan Kritangi.
Trinatyarocha Upalabhya Tato Vibhutim.
Trinatyarocha Upalabhya Tato Vibhutim.
Lokan Samam Vyasrijat Utsamaitim Tadante.
Lokan samam vyasarjat utsamayatim tadante.
Tasyaham abja kulishan kushake tuketai.
Tasyaham abja kulishan kushake tuketai.
Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalan Kritangi.
Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalan Kritangi.
Trinatyarocha Upalabhya Tato Vibhutim.
Trinatyarocha Upalabhya Tato Vibhutim.
Lokan Samam Vyasrijat Utsamatim Tadante.
Lokan samam
Vasujat
vyasarjat
Smayatim Tadante. I'm really having trouble focusing my eyes.
You want to use this one?
No, I think that'll be worse. I'll try it anyway. Tasyaham abja kule sankusha ketu ketai.
Tasyaham abja
kule sankusha ketu ketai. Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalan Kritangi. Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalan Kritangi. Trinatchara cha upalabhya tato vibhutim.
Trinatyarocha upalabhya tato vibhutim.
Lokan samam vasrijat utsmayatim tad ame.
Lokan samam vyasarjat utmayatim
I'm sorry, I could have said A-M-E, it's A-N-T, right? Yeah, I'm having trouble seeing. Sorry.
Tasyaham abja kushilan kushake tuketair.
Sankar Pita Ketan.
Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalankritagni.
Srimad Padaya Bhagavata Samalankritangi.
Trinatyarocha upalabhya tato vibhutim.
Trinatyarocha upalabhya tato vibhutim.
Lokan samam vyasarjat utsmayatim tadante.
Lokan samavasrijat utsmayatim tadante. Tasyaham abja kulesham kushake tukatai. Srimad Bhagavata Samalankritangi Trinatya Rocha Prapalabhya Tato Vibhutim Lokan Samam Visvijat Usmati Tintarante.
So right to the word meanings of the second one. Tasya, his. Aham, myself. Abja, lotus flower. Kulisha, thunderbolt. Ankusha, rod for driving elephants. Ketu, flag. Ketai, impressions. Srimad, the owner of all opulence. Vadai, by the soles of the feet. Bhagavata, the personality of Godhead. Samalankrita angi, one whose body is so decorated. Three. Ati, superseding. Aroche, beautifully decorated. Upalabhya, having obtained. Tata, thereafter. Vibhutin, specific powers. Lokan, planetary systems. Saha, he. Mam, me. Yasrijat, gave up. Utsmayatim, while feeling proud. Tat ante, at the end. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace is Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada. Lakshmiji, I'll read the whole thing. Lakshmiji, the goddess of fortune, whose glance of grace was sought by demigods like Brahma, and for whom they surrendered many a day unto the personality of Godhead, gave up her own abode in the forest of lotus flowers and engaged herself in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. I was endowed with specific powers to supersede the fortune of all the three planetary systems by being decorated with the impressions of the flag, thunderbolt, elephant driving rod, and lotus flower, which are signs of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the end, when I felt I was so fortunate, the Lord left me. Left me. Yeah. Translation, or repeat. Lakshmiji, the goddess of fortune, whose glance of grace was sought, by demigods like Brahma, and for whom they surrendered many a day, unto the personality of Godhead, gave up her own abode in the forest of lotus flowers, and engaged herself in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. I was endowed with specific powers to supersede the fortunes of all the three planetary systems, by being decorated with the impressions of the flag, thunderbolt, elephant driving rod, and lotus flower, which are signs of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the end, when I felt I was so fortunate, the Lord left me. Purport. The beauty and opulence of the world can be enhanced. Now, the beauty and opulence of the world can be enhanced by the grace of the Lord and not by any man-made planning. When the Lord Sri Krishna was present on this earth, the impressions of the special signs of his lotus feet were stamped in the dust. And as a result of this specific grace, the whole earth was made as perfect as possible. In other words, the rivers, the seas, the forests, the hills, and the mines, which are the supplying agents for the necessities of men and animals, were fully discharging their respective duties. Therefore, the riches of the world surpassed all the riches of all other planets and the 3 planetary systems of the universe. One should, therefore, ask that the grace of the Lord always be present on earth, so that we may be favored with his causeless mercy and be happy, having all necessities of life. One may ask how we can detain the Supreme Lord on this earth after his mission is fulfilled and he has left this earth for his own abode. The answer is that there is no need to detain the Lord. The Lord, being omnipresent, can be present with us if we want him at all. By his omnipresence, he can always be with us if we are attached to his devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. There is nothing in the world with which the Lord is disconnected. The only thing we must learn is to excavate the source of connection and thus be linked with him by offenseless service. We can be connected with him by the transcendental sound representation of the Lord. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical, and one who chants the holy name of the Lord in an offenseless manner can at once realize that the Lord is present before him. Even by the vibration of radio sound, we can partially realize sound relativity, and by resounding the sound of transcendence, we can verily feel the presence of the Lord. In this age, when everything is polluted by the contamination of Kali, it is instructed in the scriptures and preached by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, we can at once be free from contamination and gradually rise to the status of transcendence and go back to Godhead. The offenseless chanter of the holy name of the Lord is as auspicious as the Lord himself, and the movement of pure devotees of the Lord all over the world can at once change the troublesome face of the world. Only by the propagation of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord can we be immune from all effects of the age of Kali. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, and my spiritual master opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him. So I'm going to read the translation again, because it's 2 parts, and I'll show you which part is what, which verse. Lakshmiji, the goddess of fortune, whose glance of grace was sought by demigods like Brahma, and for whom they surrendered many a day unto the personality of Godhead, gave up her own abode in the forest of lotus flowers, and engaged herself in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord. Now that's the verse the other verse here. And Prabhupada actually did not comment on that. There's nothing in the purport that really relates to this verse. So I'm not going to talk about that, except I will point out that perhaps for whom they surrendered many a day unto the personality of Godhead, sometimes one begins to render devotional service because one wants wealth. And so they wanted the goddess of fortune, so they surrendered many a day to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because to get fortune. Apparently, that's what it says. And while Lakshmi herself gave up her own abode in the forest of lotus flowers and sought after the Lord to serve the Lord. So it's a little bit of a contradiction being brought, not a contradiction, but a contrast being brought out there. That actually the Lord is desirable even for the goddess of fortune that everybody wants. So that was that verse, and Prabhupada didn't really comment on this and in purport because he started on this part, which is the other verse. So I'll read that now. I, Earth speaking here, Mother Bhumi speaking, I was endowed with specific powers to supersede the fortune of all the 3 planetary systems by being decorated with the impressions of the flag, thunderbolt, elephant, dragon rod, and lotus flower, which are signs of the lotus feet of the Lord. But at the end, when I felt I was so fortunate, the Lord left me. So, both verses are about fortune, but one is about the goddess of fortune and about how trying to get the fortune from the goddess of fortune is even the goddess of fortune herself will leave her fortune to go to serve Krishna. So that's that contrast about that. But then we go to this other one, which seems like a different mood to me, that Mother Earth was filled with fortune, was full of fortune while Krishna was present. So it came from Krishna's presence, and then Krishna left. So his presence is symbolized by the footprints, the marks of his footprints. I've even heard it said that the cows, being devotees of Krishna, did not step on his special footprints, because Krishna's footprints are so special that he marked the earth. And in the dust, you can see the marks of the lines in the feet. They have, so just like hands, feet have lines. And so Krishna has standard markings on his feet, and they could be seen in the dust. Apparently, wherever the dust is fine enough, it could be seen. So those footprints symbolize the presence of Krishna's lotus feet and Krishna himself on the planet Earth. And because of his presence, the whole earth everything was functioning nicely. Mother Bhumi was filling all this wealth because all parts of her were producing the seas, the rivers, the seas, the forests, the hills, and the mines, which are the supplying agents for the necessities of men and animals, were fully discharging their respective duties. So we can understand that the mines were still mines, but they were producing gems and gold and precious metals and so on, everything that was needed for wealth. Real gems are coming very easily. And the rivers are producing clean water abundantly. The hills and the forests and producing vegetation and food. The cows were producing abundant milk. The pastures are producing abundant grass. The grains and the vegetables, the forests and their trees, all producing abundantly the fruits. And there was so much wealth, all because of Krishna's presence. Everything was happening very easily, whereas nowadays things are kind of pinched. So it's because of so much sinful activity and because Krishna's not on the planet. So things are more pinched. The gems aren't coming so easily. The rivers are getting polluted. The rain is unpredictable, like that. So it's Krishna's presence here. In this verse, it's Krishna's presence that is the source of fortune. In the other verse, it's like talking about the goddess of fortune and how people worship Krishna to get the goddess of fortune. Actually, Krishna is the source of the fortune. So, and he has left. So there's some different things to point out in here. So the beauty and opulence, I'll just go through the purport and discuss different parts of it. The beauty and opulence of the world can be enhanced by the grace of the Lord and not by any man-made planning. So we can examine that. Man-made planning has to happen. And we can improve it some. I mean, after all, why is there gardening? Why is there permaculture? We can improve it some, instead of just neglecting it and not trying to do anything with it. So we can, in fact, my grandmother used to tell this joke that the farmer, the preacher passed the farm. The farmer was gardening a section by the road and making a flower garden. It was very beautiful. And the preacher said to the farmer, isn't it wonderful what God and man can do together? And the farmer says, yeah, you should have seen what it was like when God had it to himself. There's a bunch of weeds, I guess. But, so, we can work with God. We can improve it. But the real beauty is enhanced by Krishna's presence. Because we can't imagine how beautiful and wonderful the earth was, especially around Vrindavan when Krishna was there. Oh, fan. Yeah. Yeah, it's calling. Anybody knows how to help that fan?
Don't want the fan on. sound of the fan.
What? You don't want the fan?
Not
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
Oh, that one? Okay. Just one. Okay. Sorry.
It won't work?
Well,
It goes on the
you
recording.
know?
You want to turn it on?
Well, I don't know. They're saying that no.
That it messes up the
I
recording.
don't want
Why don't you sit under
Okay.
But if you want, like,
No, I don't care. I thought everybody else wanted.
Somebody needs their volume turned up too.
This is tiny, that you can turn up the
Maybe
volume.
technical adjustment. Oh, why don't you sit under that fan? Why do you have to sit there? Why don't you sit under that fan?
Sure. I thought I was just trying to turn them all on.
Thank you, Kirby.
Anyway, if the fan disturbs the recording, I guess.
I'm not.
Cameras win. Cameras always win. What can we do? Machines are going to take over. They're already starting. It says, therefore the riches of the world surpass all the riches of all other planets in the three planetary systems of the universe. So, even though there's heavenly planets, which are much more wonderful than Earth, but during the time of Krishna's presence, Earth surpassed the heavenly planets. It's hard to imagine. And the demigods came here a lot. In fact, during that time, the rishis, who are not exactly like regular human beings because they can actually travel to higher planets, and they're just they're different somehow. Even though they're human beings, but they're a different kind. But they were on Earth. They could come and go. They came here a lot, and the demigods came sometimes. So Earth was attractive, and the demons had come because they wanted to fight Krishna some more, but they had. Anyway, so there was all this drama, demigods and demons and Krishna. So, but Earth was so attractive then. It was especially attractive. And even more so than the heavenly planets, which is hard to understand, because how the heavenly planets are so wonderful and opulent. So it says, one should therefore ask that the grace of the Lord always be present on earth, so that we may be favored with his causeless mercy and be happy, having all necessities of life. So then we say, well, are we supposed to pray for, well, you are supposed to pray for what? I mean, you are supposed to, you can ask for what you need, the necessities of life. And, well, actually, you can ask for it. He says here. But it's not really that strongly encouraged. We should simply try to serve Krishna. And then Krishna will bless us with what we need. And to have our real needs not met actually puts us into distress. Sometimes we have all these kind of desires, we want more things, and that also distracts. That's not so good either. Desiring more things or having more things than we need is not necessarily so good for us. But the basic necessities, actually, we should have them, and then there's more peace. We're not in distress. So supposing something happened to the electricity and we couldn't get clean water, we'd be in distress. You'd have to figure out how to get some muddy water from the ponds and stuff. So, or that pump out there, which is very hard work. So, let's see. One may ask how we can detain the Supreme Lord on this earth after his mission is fulfilled, and he has left this earth for his own abode. So, if Krishna wants to go, what are we supposed to do? How can we ask? So, the answer is that there's no need to detain the Lord. The Lord is omnipresent. He can be present with us if we want him at all. So, if we want Krishna, he's here. If we just desire Krishna, he knows it and he's here. So then, this is leading to a point here. The Lord, he can always be with us if we are attached to his devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, etc. So, there's nothing in the world with which the Lord is disconnected. The only thing we must learn is to excavate the source of connection and thus be linked with him by offenseless service. So there's some point we have to figure out, we have to find out how to connect initially with the Lord so that we can do devotional service. So this is leading to the holy names. Transcendental sound vibration. Actually, when I always read the part in the Bhagavatam, most of us do, and the English, when we start those verses, the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest. Okay, the Bhagavatam is the very means of conquest. Then the holy names are the very means. So what is it really? So actually, the Bhagavatam gives us information about what else the holy names contain, so that our minds can be open to it, so that we can begin to receive it. Because we need to hear from the Bhagavatam in order to know that the holy names contain not only the name of God, but the form, the qualities, and the pastimes. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila. The name, the form, the qualities, and the pastimes are all contained in the holy names, but we won't know about it unless we have some help learning. So the Bhagavatam is here in order to help us know not only about the names of God, but also about the form. Many times the form of Krishna, the form of the Super Soul, the form of the different incarnations are described again and again. And the qualities of Krishna are described again and again. And the Leela, of course, so many Leelas. So we can meditate on the activities, the qualities, the beautiful form, while we're chanting the name. The name contains all those things. And the more you chant the name, the longer these things open up. If you chant offenselessly, and might add that there's 3 stages of chanting the holy names. The first stage is offensive chanting. It's where we don't know what we're doing wrong, we don't know what our wrong attitudes are. We're chanting, but we're still materially attached, and we're not trying to change it. In the beginning, it starts out that way. And everybody in the material world is offensive because everybody has turned away from Krishna. Everybody is trying to enjoy their own senses, and this is essentially a position of offensiveness. So, but then the next stage of chanting, which should be entered into pretty quick after you start chanting in your life, is the clearing stage. So that's where you start learning how you're supposed to be focusing on Krishna. You're not the body. You're not supposed to be trying to get sense gratification. You're supposed to be giving up sinful activities. You're supposed to be concentrating on Krishna and so on. So that takes maybe many years, this clearing stage, because it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And our habits of not paying attention are very stubborn. So we keep working on it, and finally there is the pure stage, where the holy name that you chant is pure in the sense that you can, not that it's ever impure, but it's pure in the sense that you're pure when you chant it. And then you can see what it contains. You can see the Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila in the holy name. And you know that Krishna is not different from his name. You know it by experience. We get glimpses of it. We may feel the difference between when we're going around muddled in our upset worries and stuff, and then we start chanting, so it's a little better. Or we go out in Harinam and we chant, and we feel like it changes the surroundings when we're chanting in Harinam. Because otherwise it looks like a city street, and then it turns into a temple while the holy names are happening. And then you stop and take a break and it's a city street again. So we can experience a little of this. And but when you get to the pure holy name, just because we're Nama Bas, which is the clearing stage, Nama Shuddhanam, the pure holy name, then all this is always real to you. So we have these stages. So the holy name is the key for connecting and hearing. So it's all about hearing. You can't chant the holy name until you hear it. And you can't know what's in the holy name until you hear it. It's all about hearing. It's all about transcendental sound vibration. So our chanting the holy name is a response to it. So we hear, we chant. We hear, we chant. So there is nothing in the world with which the Lord is disconnected. The only thing we must learn is to excavate the source of connection and thus be linked with him by offenseless service. Excavation. That reminds me, we helped in a garden up north once. A devotee started a garden, a big garden. We helped for a little while. And it was so big, couldn't keep ahead of the weeds. Growing big rows of lettuce full of weeds. And so I go out and I would try to get on top of the weeds, pull out the weeds and expose the lettuce. I felt like I was excavating because the lettuce was buried. I felt like I was some kind of archaeologist uncovering evidence that humans were here in the past, planted the lettuce. So I was excavating, and there were so many weeds. So we talk about weeds and we talk about the devotional creeper. So it's a matter of excavating that source of connection, get the weeds out of the way. So many weeds. So we have to excavate. So, and thus be linked to him by offenseless service. We can be connected with him by the transcendental sound representation of the Lord. The holy name of the Lord and the Lord himself are identical. And one who chants the holy name of the Lord in no offenseless manner, that's that Shuddhanam, pure chanting, one can at once realize that the Lord is present before him. We may have a dim realization when we become pure, in our chanting. Prabhupada said you could see Krishna all the time. You could always see Krishna. So there's hints of this in the scriptures that when you're pure, you can see Krishna while you chant. You can see Krishna all the time. And so we are striving for that, reaching for that. Even by the vibration of radio sound, can make an example of radio. We can partially realize sound relativity. I don't understand that sounds too well, but by resounding the sound of transcendence, we can verily feel the presence of the Lord. So he's making it like on the radio, speaker on the radio, we can partially realize we can't see him, and we maybe can't hear him really clearly. We don't know everything that's going on where he's at, but we get some idea. We get the story, we get the news, whatever, on the radio. And we get sometimes some idea of the personality of the speaker. So it's similar, even when we're just practicing our chanting, we get something like that. In this age, when everything is polluted by the contamination of Kali, it is instructed in the scriptures and preached by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that by chanting the holy name of the Lord, we can at once be free from contamination and gradually rise to the status of transcendence and go back to Godhead. How can we at once be free from the chanting? Maybe there's a temptation, or maybe there's a depression or something like that. Get ourselves around to where we chant the holy names, and it helps. We can at once be free. We can at once be helped. Gets us out of our mind, a contaminated mind. Let's see. The offenseless chanter of the holy name of the Lord is as auspicious as the Lord himself. The offenseless chanter, the one who is arrived, who is able to chant purely, is as auspicious as the Lord himself. Because we're all made of Satchidananda, right? We all have in spiritual or Satchidananda Vigraha. And we say Krishna is Satchidananda Vigraha, which is eternity, the form of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. We are also, as tiny spirit souls, made of eternity, bliss, and knowledge. And we have our constitutional point in the spiritual world. So, anybody in a small, minute particle of it, anybody who is pure like that is as auspicious as the Lord, is made of the same thing as Krishna is. So we are all potentially that, if we can chant purely, if we get to it. This is what our path is. Our long struggle to get purified, because long struggle because of our attachments. It's very hard to overcome them. But we make progress. So, the movement of pure devotees of the Lord all over the world can at once change the troublesome face of the world. That has happened. We have pure, in the sense that Prabhupada said sometimes that all his disciples are pure devotees. And sometimes he said, we are a long ways from being pure. So what is this contradiction? He taught pure devotional service. And anybody who's following him is on the path of pure devotional service. He didn't teach some kind of mixed devotion. He taught the pure thing. So that everybody, while they're trying to follow him, it's a pure thing we're doing. So in that sense, we all, if we follow Prabhupada properly, we're all pure devotees. In the sense that we're on the path of pure devotion. Even though we aren't always on that path, and sometimes we're off it a little bit. But when we're on it, we have this power. So even if you take these two sentences together, the offenseless chanter of the holy name of the Lord is auspicious as the Lord himself. And first when I read this, I think that's Prabhupada. Then when I say, and the movement of pure devotees of the Lord all over the world can at once change the troublesome face of the world. So that means all of us. So in as much as we can chant purely, at least for the duration of when we're preaching or on Harinam or something like that, if we're trying to follow Srila Prabhupada, we are the pure devotees who are changing the face of the world. And we have no idea how much disaster we may have steered away. Perhaps the whole idea of a destructive world war, atomic war, which would have made a nuclear winter and probably destroyed the world for many, many centuries or something, hasn't happened. And maybe because of this chanting. Hopefully, if we keep chanting, hopefully it won't happen. We don't know. But only by the propagation of the chanting of the holy name of the Lord can we be immune from all effects of the age of Kali. So like I said, when you go downtown where the age of Kali is rampant and you're chanting a Harinam, you're in a temple. While we're chanting, so by the chanting of the holy names. So I think there's more thoughts I had. I'm pretty sure, but I can't think of them now. So any comments or questions, maybe some more things will come to me. Yeah, Mahatma. I think I saw you first. Did I go first? I think I saw you. All right, you go first.
Oh, we were listening last night to the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita and Karma Yoga, and it was saying that because men do not do yajna, and the yajna for the sage is the chanting, then people starve, their needs are not met. So let's do this yajna. And 3:14, it actually says that all living bodies subsist on food grains, which are produced from rains. Rains are produced by the performance of yajna, bracket, sacrifice, when yajna is born of prescribed duties. And so this falls in line perfectly with this.
It's not just varnashram prescribed duties, because in one of the purports, Prabhupada said prescribed duties are also spiritual duties instructed by the spiritual master, and our main spiritual duties chant the holy names.
Right.
So
That's the ultimate yajna.
We have to find our courage and our vision and keep that together and keep pushing so that we can keep spreading the holy names. And I think on a farm, we can also go to the city and chant, but we have a specific purpose as a farm. We have to make a place where chanting has a home, and Varnashram is functional enough that we can work together in an effective way, and people will come. So a farm has a special kind of purpose in the Harinam Sankirtan movement. That, of course, we can also go to the city. We can also put aside our farm activities and go to the city and chant Harinam too, but that's quite a drive. And we do have a special purpose here. So it's part of chanting the holy names. So, Mahatma?
Yes. Two things came to mind when you were talking. One is a story about this farmer that was doing his austerity, growing vegetables and grains and everything. But he had to deal with the rain, with the dry season, with the plagues, so many miseries, right? So he asked God, why don't you just give me an easy harvest one year, Why don't you just do that? You can do that. He wasn't faithless. He was faithful that God can do that. So God agreed. And he said, okay, this year you won't have any nuisance for your growing. Everything will go perfect. So he did, and when he harvested, the grains and all the vegetables and everything had no taste whatsoever. So God said, because austerity has to be involved, because sacrifice has to be involved for us to get a higher taste, you see. So this is a Christian story that I wanted to mention. But the other thing about Prabhupada's influence in this world, we're seeing it everywhere. And just recently, the news on the radio said that in August 7, from August 7 to August 12, all the resources from Mother Earth were finished for this year. We have no more resources, and question of energy, they have their calculations. Prabhupada said there is no scarcity, but the conclusion of this radio news is good. So they were saying that which means that the next year, this year we're going to borrow from next year. September, October, November, and December, those 4 months, we don't have we don't have the resources anymore for this year.
Is there talking about resources like energy, fuel?
From Mother Earth, yeah. The naturals, yeah. So now we're borrowing from next year. And next year, we're going to borrow from next year. And it's going to increase, and there is going to be a time. Of course, Prabhupada said there is no scarcity as long as we follow his method. But this is what they were saying on the radio. And it is important because the conclusion was, and he announced, and it's nothing, and I'm using this for preaching, and I tell people when I give them the book, I'm not saying this, they are saying this on the radio. And they listen to that because, news, radio, TV, or internet is important for them. So the conclusion for this was that because due of this scarcity, they are recommended that everybody becomes vegetarian.
Wow.
In that way, the load for Mother Earth will be lower and will come, to a lower percentage or whatever. So that is great. It's bad news about the energy, which we don't have to worry because Prabhupada said there is no scarcity. We believe in what He gives us, and if we could follow better, then we could do better too. But this is the influence. This is His influence in this United States only. That now on the radio, the news said, you become a vegetarian. That is their instruction now. They don't even have to read the Gita. They don't even have to. Now the instruction is general for everybody to become a vegetarian. And of course we know that the vegans are there now, and they are polluted, populating the society like anything, which is also good.
The what is?
Vegan.
The vegans.
Polluting, you said, the society?
No,
Populating.
Populating. It was somewhat polluting because they
Yeah.
don't want you to even use cow's milk. They don't want you to use animals. So they
Yeah,
don't
but
want you to eat anything.
intention counts. Intention counts. So
Yeah.
this is better than eating meat. So
Yes, yes, it's a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah.
And anybody living in the city, if you don't have your own cow, I'd be a vegan too
Yeah.
in the city if I didn't have, a hemp some milk. So, yeah. Yeah, go ahead. I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead, Haidwani.
I was thinking about how you were saying how the holy name is so purifying, and I recall when so many of the mothers used to go out to the French Quarter to collect and distribute books. We did a lot of cookbooks, especially at Mardi Gras time. I recall there were so many incidents because at that time the devotees would really take the opportunity to do Harinam. And even years ago, like the New Vrindavan devotees would come down, like a whole squad of them to collect and then also go out on Harinam, Sankirtan. And when the Harinam party would come, like Mardi Gras, you cannot imagine, unless you've experienced it, like how horrific, decadent, like crazy, just insane it is that there would be. And when the Harinam would come, you would have these amazing experiences, like somebody would give you like a great big donation, or you'd meet some soul that just wanted to hear about Krishna, and so many instances of, and all you could attribute it to was the potency, the efficacy of the holy name, because it was just so, it wasn't like just some like isolated incident. It would happen all the time like that. So amazing. Sri Harinam Prabhu ki.
And we have, as a farm, we have a special, we have a special purpose that Prabhupada said people will come to the farm. We can show them Krishna conscious lifestyle. So now we're on the threshold of perhaps developing some agro-tourism. So what I think that we really should ponder how to make it a Harinam experience in a sense. How we can specifically give them Krishna consciousness, not just farm experience. And somehow we've got to give the whole package to people. I'm not sure how much. Langa Ganesha was saying about that.
There's a verse in the Sri Upanishad that describes that when Krishna does something, so many other things occur as sequential, simultaneous events. The last part of the second verse Bhumi is saying that she was so proud that she had, or she was pleased that she had these 4 symbols that decorated her, Krishna's lotus footprints on her surface. And at that time he left. It said that when we develop pride about anything, Krishna leaves, especially pride of his association.
Yeah, even with the gopis, they thought that they were the most fortunate, so he vanished.
Yeah, humility is superior to pride.
So, yeah.
Anyway, you can do
You
hard.
had your hand up, or you just want to tell me the time?
I have my hand up, but if he
well,
wants to.
I just said yes to you, but you didn't speak.
Oh, I thought
Yeah,
you
that's why I started talking, because you didn't
So you didn't do it? Okay.
Wait,
I think he thought
but
time is
I was
up.
thinking you can do Harinam to the trees,
Behind
to
up to the
birds,
trees.
blades of grass.
And it goes up in the atmosphere and it goes around the world.
That's, the
So-
whole, they're just the same as the
Yeah.
people down at the French Quarter,
The Rath-yatra in Gitanagari was all around the farm. It was pretty extended.
But, and the other thing is, the Prabhupada, when he was on the planet, there was a few things that he noticed, certain trends, like first of all, smoking in public was a common thing in those days. And the influence of it, and a lot of devotees would push it in public places, like when we would travel to India, devotees would make announcements about smoking, and that seemed very odd and very intrusive, like just how could you dare not tell us to smoke? I mean, to tell us not to smoke.
Yeah.
And now it's actually become,
The smokers
and
have
then
become
there is more interest in things like yoga and meditation and vegetarianism. So those Prabhupada would always say that has some, that's due to the purification of the Harinam, that there is some effect, because the sound of the holy name travels around the earth at least 7 times, something like that. All sounds do, but it's purifying the whole atmosphere. And so certain trends, Prabhupada would point to them and say, this is the effect of the Sankirtan movement. Those kind of things.
I think Krishna tries next.
in listening to the audio on the Bhagavad Gita, we notice how many times Varnashrama Dharma comes up again and again.
Sometimes indirectly spoken, not
And
so
sometimes
specifically
overtly,
named.
sometimes
That's there.
indirectly. And this verse 3:14, it says that the Lord can be satisfied by sacrifices, therefore one who cannot perform them will find himself in scarcity. That is the law of nature. Yajna, specifically the Sankirtan Yajna prescribed for this age, must therefore be performed to save us at least from scarcity of food supply. And that's the last sentence in that 3:14. And so the Yajna for this age.
And we should be doing more outdoors and indoors kirtan.
Under trees.
We should be doing more of this somehow. Yes. Actually, Hardwani was next, and then I think, I don't know which of you two was first, because you might have had your hand up before. Whoever was first, speak. No, it's between Hardwani and Mahatma.
Go ahead.
Okay.
We recently had a Ratha Yatra in Orlando. There are several Ratha Yatras in Florida. But this one is very important because they allow us to do it at the University of Central Florida.
Rath-yatra at the university.
Inside, we go in the circle of the student building.
Indoors or inside?
And then, well, the Ratha
campus.
Yatra is outside.
In the campus.
All the students see us, we invite them. And then we go into a hall, which is the student hall. There is a restaurant there, and then we put a table outside of the hall, and we invite them to come to the vegetarian or vegan meal or whatever. So I was there to participate in different activities that Bhagavatam Prabhu had very kindly invited me to. So one of the activities was to invite the students to come in, or anybody that was there. So I went into the workers' room lunch because I found some Spanish guys, so I went in there. And then professors were going by, so I said, please bring your class and everything. And the response from everybody is amazing. It's like, it seemed like San Francisco or some kind of civilized part of the world where where Prabhupada was there and everybody was responding, The professors were saying to me, please let us know ahead of time so we can bring the whole classroom to the program.
Wow.
Sometimes I'm jealous of Europe because they have these big things going on there. But this is in Florida, you said.
This is Florida, Orlando.
What's the Orlando?
Yeah.
There's probably lots of potential in this country to do
It's
creatively done,
And so many people have heard of the book, Prabhupada's book. They know about us. They know. Then the workers came to eat with us. So many of the workers came to eat with us the lunch. And of course, so many kids, they say, oh, vegan, is it vegetarian? Yeah, oh, okay. Oh, and someone asked me, does this have to do anything with the Hare Krishnas? I say, yeah, we are the Hare Krishnas. And he says, oh, yeah, I'm coming then.
Wow.
But the miracle inside, when all the kids came, happened when two of them, all the Methodis stand up to dance, and there were no boys dancing, but two of the students were looking at each other, they were very antsy in their chairs. And I came and said to them, go, you can go dance. And they say, there is no other man. I say, well, you're going to be the brave ones, go. So they went and they danced all the way. There was nobody else, they were the only ones, and they knew the mantra already. So that was one miracle that happened, seeing the soul awakening. And the other miracle was with another voice that I was talking to. I was sitting next to them. They went and took prasadam 3 times. 3 times.
Oh.
And you can just see that I don't want to leave. You see their bodies, you see their attitude like, I don't want to go. They forget about their classes. They were completely captivated by the program and by the prasadam. Unfortunately, we have a program in Orlando going on, and we also have Bhakti Charu's land now, farm, starting, so we can cultivate and preach to all those kids.
We can take this as an inspiration for, if we do agro-tourism here, we have to not think, oh, now we have to be like agro-tourism places. We can make it an experience of Krishna consciousness like that. We have to be brave and bold, and we have to be creative to do this, but that's what we have to try to do.
And in this little corner, remote corner, you can say, I broke down with the van, so I had to deal with the U-Hauls and everything. So I went to Pasagola, which is is it a big town or is it a medium town? Anyway, the lady at the desk was trying to make all arrangements for me so, I could be properly situated with what I needed. And then he says, what are you doing? Why do you have all these books for? So I explained to her what we were doing, that we're trying to open a library and this is a farm and this and that. I didn't mention Hare Krishna yet when she says, oh, you have a restaurant, and I forgot to say this one time. But she said that she had tasted. She said the restaurant food is really good. And they had another one in Ocean Springs, she told me.
At one time.
And she says, and now that one is closed, which is bad news for me because I didn't know that. And she was reminiscing that, So I'm going back to take prasadam to them because he's her manager and the owner of another store. There were 3 people, 3 teams involved. So I was dealing with all of them. So the last team for Grand Bay asked me to make tamales for them. So it's such an opportunity to distribute prasadam to,
Adwani's next.
Really?
Thank you.
This way, I was going to say something else, but just what Mataji said helped me recall that a class I was listening to by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he was talking about how really, at least in America, it's becoming very committed Indian body devotees come forward and, helping to, performing devotional service, manning the temples like that, but how it's really lacking in actually getting devotees to come from like the indigenous population. And like what Mataji was talking about, it's so important to, reach out to, American people and, give them Krishna consciousness. Even when Brahmananda Prabhu went to Nairobi, he, was a big job, but he ended up just like almost like exclusively, not almost, but exclusively approaching Indians that were there. And when Prabhupada came to visit, Prabhupada was disturbed. He said, you have to preach to the local people. So whatever we can do, like what Mataji is telling, like brainstorm, and what you're talking about, agritourism, to like help to give Krishna consciousness to others. And then that reminded me that not so long ago, like maybe last year, Kappa had some, maybe you remember this big fancy, bus came that these ladies, bus came that these ladies from the coast, they were, I don't know, they were some garden club or something, but they rented this bus to come here for the, this whole experience. And Sri Petit happened to be coming by, and she knew one of the ladies. And so she was telling her, oh, you should come. This is what, you're going to miss it if you leave now. This is where it's really happening. And she brought these 30 ladies, these older, garden club ladies, whatever, into the temple, and it's like telling them all about Srila Prabhupada and their lordships, and and they were just like delighted. So what you're saying, we really have to take that to heart to include that in that most important aspect in the experience of agritourism, and not just like, we're just kind of undercover.
Because we call it agritourism, we have to be careful not to let that word, subtly affect us and think we have to be like other agritourism places. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And I was going to say, just as important as fertilizer in the garden is, so is the holy name. We enchant it to get the produce, because that could be incorporated easily into the whole thing.
Yeah.
And we don't want to be undercover
anymore.
No, it's not time. In fact, there's a monastery in Atlanta, Georgia, where they have bees and they have wine, and they have bonsai plants, and they become famous in that area. And the monks there are not undercover; they're very out front.
Just like the Amish, they are famous for their cheese.
They
are famous, so we can be famous for one thing. We can do one thing.
Dance
we don't have to be so ambitious.
Harinam in the garden. You can do Harinam in the garden.
We've had a few
and that's how plants grow.
Of scandals and things like that have embarrassed us. But we have to take courage, because what we have is better than,
There's lots of positive out there, though.
Yeah.
That is gone. Yeah.
Krishna has her hand raised.
She's always right behind the post for me, so I don't know. But she has her hand out. Yes.
She said she's okay. Then the only other thing that occurred to me is that, can you reread real quickly that sentence where Prabhupada uses the word excavation? That's an amazing sentence.
That's a cool sentence.
Yeah.
Okay. There is nothing in the world with which the Lord is disconnected. The only thing we must learn is to excavate the source of connection and thus be linked to Him by offenseless service. We can be connected with Him by the transcendental sound representation, the holy name of the Lord, and the Word itself, like that.
That's an amazing sentence.
It is.
For somebody that English isn't even their first language.
Right.
That's like phenomenal.
It's an
that
amazing
sentence is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, all the Prabhupada's purpose, but that is strikes you as being so profound and just hitting it on the head, and wow, what an amazing experience to be able to hear Prabhupada's purport.
Yes. Well,
Prabhupada has described that we have so many veils from different lifetimes of material life. And he isn't saying remove the veil, one at a time. He's saying excavate, which is like, going through layers, digging through layers. So, yeah.
It's a really good one.
Yeah.
To be so fortunate. I just think that every day, how can we be so fortunate?
Just one last thing, in case anybody knows or knew him. Jatayu Prabhu in Alatra left his body a couple of weeks ago. He was in hospice already in Clearwater, but we were fortunate enough to get there with Charanamrita from Lord Balaram's appearance. And he was in really bad shape. And the reason why I'm mentioning is because he was a farmer. And he was providing a lot of vegetables to the whole community for so many years. So we are hoping that Krishna has him in his arms, and that more farmers are going to come, and more farmers are going to help the movement. Jatayu Prabhu, he was first initiated by Srila Prabhupada, and second from Hridayananda Maharaj. He was on the same batch than Bhishma, Prabhu. I mean, we were all like on that same.
You are not
Period.
first by Prabhupada.
No, I came when Prabhupada was in the planet, but I was not unfortunate enough.
And Jatayu was also one of the first Atsun trainers.
He used to bring them to the fairs.
Yeah.
He used to bring them to the fairs for exhibition, yeah.
Me, him, and Shastra went to Alachua to prepare for all the families that moved there.
Uh-huh. So you knew him?
Yes.
You knew Hitata?
Yeah.
When I joined at Marai Sevak in 1981, he was there working in Boston.
Yeah, he was fortunate enough. He took Lord Balaram Charanamrita, and he left right between Lord Balaram and Janmastami. 2 days before Janmastami, and like very close. Yeah. So he was a cowboy, so he had to go at that time.
Encouraging.
Not with Balaram, not with Krishna. He was like a
Thank you.
yeah.
All right.
I'll miss you, Papa.
Thank you.
Please.
Hallelujah.